Keep that in mind.
Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 253. This is Carl, and with me is my lovely wife,
Chelle.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay. Before we get started, and I'll explain why Chelle is here instead of Josh in just a moment, but this show is sponsored by two of our patrons, Evan Brown and George Coxon. Thank you guys so much for your amazing support on our Patreon. In fact, after we record this, tomorrow, Josh and I are recording something for the Patreon. So at least that's what Josh says. We'll see. Also, we're part of the Goonhammer Media Network. So check out media.goonhammer.com for more shows and information. Yeah. So I've got Chelle here for a couple reasons. First off, the topic of the episode is introducing your partner to 40K. Originally it was introducing your spouse, but like not everybody's married that wants to get their spouse involved or their significant other involved.
Yes.
So I broadened that up a little bit. But really, this is kind of, Chelle, you've gotten into Warhammer 40K quite a bit lately, more than ever before.
True.
And so I wanted to kind of walk through that journey on what it looked like for you to see if maybe that helps other people as well. In the meantime, first let's talk Elite Choice and Chelle's Kiss. This is the first time you get to say Chelle's Kiss on the mic,
which I didn't realize I'd have to talk about until about
a second ago. So first off, I would like to commend Neil Tweed and his Osserman painting, which is just a gorgeous representation of this new model.
Yeah.
And it makes me jealous that he can paint so well. That is a beautiful version of Osserman. I mean, it's fairly standard, like color scheme and all that, but it's just done so cleanly.
Yeah. Colors are totally saturated on it.
Yeah, it just blew my mind when I saw it. Blew my mind. And not because it's blue, but yeah, it did. I just thought it was a really, really great representation. I'd love to see the rest of the army. Chelle, you chose Liz Apke and her... I think these are rat ogres, rat guys.
The rat guys.
They're from Age of Sigmar. They're part of the Skaven army. You didn't know that when you picked them. And Liz has done these for the Hobby Progress Challenge this is her February completion.
Yeah.
What was it about these guys that drew you to them?
Well, first off, the colors are just like color's the first thing that hits me.
Okay.
But then it's always, they have a story to them. Like they look more than just a character. They look, I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
Looks like a story there. They look like more than just what I keep looking at. Like I've seen lots and lots and lots of things and lots of painting. I guess that.
I mean, you've been, I would say you've been moderating the Hobby Progress Challenge for us this entire time. So yeah, you look at everybody's painting at this point.
You said Age of Sigmar is what they're from?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think a lot of times the Age of Sigmar stuff like catches my eye over the Warhammer because it's just got just a slight bit of, I don't know, fantasy sort of thing to it, which I think is neat. I looked at them and I'm like, whoa, what are these guys?
Right.
And then as I looked closer because of that attraction to them, you can just see the line. The painting is so clean. It's so sharp. It's so... highlighted and detailed.
The fades from like green to yellow to red on the arms looks amazing. Looks amazing. I wouldn't have thought to use green.
And the wood pieces, like there's the wood arm and then the wood that they're standing on. It's just really, really rich and vibrant looking.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You said that like the Age of Sigmar stuff kind of leaps out you. It's fantasy based and it kind of leaps out. Like a lot of people think the Age of Sigmar models are more dynamic or more like you draw your eye more to them than you do a lot of 40K models at that thing. And I think sometimes, they're both supposed to be grim, dark kind of universes. But it feels like the fantasy players just kind of sometimes take it to another level that Not that 40K players, painters don't.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that like springs out.
Like they all the pieces I've seen, and like this one too, they have almost like a nature component to them. Like where it pulls in, like they have more than just, how do I say, my Venom crawler standing there on some rubble.
Yeah.
He's got tentacles, wire tentacles, and his highlighting and all is gold and all that. But this is just kind of like a.
You also see less mechanized stuff.
There's
right?
a brightness to it, and there is. I don't even want to say cartoonish. I just want to say it's more.
It's just vibrant.
It's vibrant. It reminds me of like as I'm looking behind you. It reminds me of our EverQuest stuff.
Yeah.
Colors and pictures.
Yeah.
It's that kind of. There's just a little more color to it, I guess.
EverQuest posters behind me, framed posters, signed framed posters.
I know.
Got one from Doug Johnson. Had to pay him good amount for it. He gave me a good deal. I think all those observations are totally legitimate, and painting is whatever catches your eye and whatever speaks to you. I think Liz is clearly talented in this area, and
it's not the first of her pieces that I've shown you and got them.
No, she's quite good. She's quite good. All right. Well, with that out of the way, let's talk a little workbench. You're not going to have a lot to contribute to this.
I have nothing for the workbench.
You haven't done any painting lately.
I haven't touched anything in months.
I know. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, that's me and my cycle.
Well, you were also waiting at one point for me to get your models to a certain level, right? So, for example,
I'm still waiting. Like they're not there yet.
They are.
I could pick them up and paint.
You can pick those guys up and paint them. In fact, that's the first thing I did here. Other than I'm going to kill Arya because she's just making noise. But I got, all the purple on your Nemesis Claw guys and the lightning bolts on them. So they're ready for you to do all the detail work.
Did you do the warp smith?
I didn't do the warp smith.
That's the one I was waiting for.
Oh, I see. Not the 10 other guys
Not the 10 other guys that you picked.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I've done that for you.
Great.
Fine, I'll do the warpsmith guy next.
I'll work on the others first.
I'll do the warpsmith guy next. What's interesting about that is you have me get them to kind of the base coats and then the airbrushed and the lightning bolts.
I can't.
Yeah, you. So Caleb and Kat came over, and Caleb gave you some lessons on that, but you're still kind of intimidated by the airbrush.
I don't know if it's intimidation. I guess that's the word that could be used. I don't fundamentally understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So I can't get my brain around how to make it work for me.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And Caleb did an amazing job explaining it to me, and other people have explained it to me. It's one of those things that's not clicking.
Yeah.
And I haven't given up, but I don't want it to keep me from doing anything.
I gotcha. Well, we got tons of junk models you can just practice on. So, that's why I keep respraying that one Rhino black over and over again. So we'll get you on that. Okay. So I did that. So I got you up to that point so you can continue there. I've actually gone back to starting on my Sisters of Battle.
You did. I was shocked.
Yeah. I've been working on my sisters, the 3 sisters in Paragon war suits and Morven Vol at the same time. And it was funny because you're like, why is that one gold and the other ones are red?
Yeah.
Is that a character? Yeah. Yep. She's a character. She's a High Lord of Terra. I'm actually really pleased with the way they're coming out so far. It was funny that I got through all the red, the gold on Morven Vol. I was doing like another layer and then like a wash on some of it. And I realized, I forgot to put the arms on one of the sisters. Like, because they have like the big suit arms, but then they have the arms that are holding the controls.
Yeah.
Right. And I got that far before I realized, I forgot to finish assembling this model. So fortunately,
you knew where they were.
I knew where they were. What I do is, so on that project and on the Black Legion project, I have a what do they call those a banker box, and like all the models, all the models in their boxes were in that. And then as I pulled them out and assembled them, I put the sprues in there. So like I never lose anything there.
Just in case you forget to put arms on.
She's unarmed.
Or something.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention was Brent of Goobertown Hobbies.
Yes.
And his buddy Casey have started Goblin Hobbies, which is their their project and their business for selling their Stampin' plates.
Oh, this is the stamp stuff.
Yeah. And so what this is I've seen people had started doing this with certain models. They were using the metal plates and the inks, effectively nail polish in some cases, that people who were doing designs on nails, women's nails or men's nails for that matter, were using. In particular, like I knew orc players were doing like checkerboards using this stuff and that kind of thing. Well, Brent has taken this to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
He shipped us over the full set of, I think it's 10 of these metal plates. They are really good quality.
Yeah.
The stamper thing for them, a bunch of the ink, which when we opened, we're like, yeah, it smells like nail polish. But we haven't tried it yet. But I watched like his demo. He has it. Go to Goblin Hobbies. Just search for Goblin Hobbies. I'll put a link in the show notes. But we haven't started with it yet. But we have a plate for like so many different armies now that I'm really, especially the chaos stuff, I really want to try.
That'll be really cool to put on.
The orc stuff would be awesome too.
Yeah. I don't think we've really put any decals on any of my shoulder plates on anybody. So this would be perfect to go and add that in after.
That's true. We could just stamp it right on.
Stamp them on there. I think that would be cool.
We'll give it a try on one and see what happens. I mean, we'll do it on a test model first, but I think it'll take a little practice. But the thing I liked about it too was the applicator is like this soft silicone.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, but you can look through it. It reminds me almost of like a
monocle. Like
or
not a monocle.
What do you call it? The like pirates.
Yeah.
What am I trying
It's almost like a kaleidoscope
or telescope.
It's like a mini, it's shaped like that, and it's got and
you can look right down at
the beveled glass that
as you
magnifies it
as you apply it. So it's a brilliant idea for a product. I kind of wish I'd thought of it, but man, it looks quality.
Yeah.
Like when I looked at those plates, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
like,
they're heavy, but not like heavy. But I mean, they're not.
They're a solid
flimsy.
piece of metal.
They're a solid piece of metal that looks like they've been very carefully cut.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very excited to give those a try. So anyway, check out, I don't know that they're selling them yet, but they're about to start. Goblin Hobbies. And again, it's Brent from Goobertown Hobbies and his buddy Casey. And they sent over instructions and everything for us to give them a try. So,
and you said they've got good videos on how.
Oh, super good. That was what
done. Yeah.
And when I saw it, like I saw that Brent, like I had just watched Brent's video about it, and he never says in the video like this is my product. And then like I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy these, and I went to the Goblin Hobbies thing, and I'm like, they're using Brent's video too. And then I'm like, I messaged him, I go, hey, is this your company? He's like, yeah, it's me and my buddy Kay. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So he was very kind and sent us over some samples.
Yeah, it just showed up yesterday, day before.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Okay, then. Chelle, since you don't listen to the show, you're not really here when we record, you're in another room. The next thing we would go into typically is games played. We have not played any 40K lately.
No.
But we were just talking about we need to play before we go to Adepticon so you can get another practice.
The last time we played a game was when everybody from Southern California came up.
Yeah.
And
that was a 4,000 point per side game.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I heard Travis. You know what? I don't know if I've talked about that on the show. Now that I think about it.
I don't know if you guys. Yeah, you probably have.
I lost track of where we were, but yeah. So Travis and those guys came up for a game day, and
I think you've talked about it.
We set up a quarterly scheduled thing because Travis was saying he doesn't get to play much 40K. The shop he's playing in, nobody paints anything, and he's very disappointed in all that because he works really hard to paint his stuff. And so we played when they came up here. You and I teamed up against Travis and Cheyenne.
Stinking Necrons.
Cheyenne? No, Travis and Aaron. No.
It was Cheyenne.
It was Cheyenne. Cheyenne. I can't. Oh, yeah. Aaron was playing over here. What did you think of that game? There's a lot of stuff on the table.
There's a lot of stuff on the table. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. It's mentally exhausting, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was very long.
Yeah. We got through the bottom of turn 3, and then it was apparent that we were losing at that point.
Yeah, that's a lot of Necrons on the table.
It was. That kept coming back.
I hate it when they come back. You get this like, okay, I did something. Oh wait, never mind. No, I didn't.
It's very disheartening.
Yeah.
It's very disheartening. I've come to appreciate the fact that as you've been going down this journey of playing and that kind of thing, I've come to appreciate the fact that seeing how I think 40K is mentally taxing. Like usually if I play 2 games in a day, I'm like, I am done.
You're wiped. Yeah. I agree.
But I appreciate it even more seeing somebody newer to the game, trying to grasp all the rules. Like I've come to appreciate just like how much it is that I take for granted that I know that a new player is like, I don't understand what's going on. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. The other thing I wanted to throw out there is I signed up for the Maelstrom Mixer, which is in about 2 months down in San Jose. That's at the Guild House.
Oh yeah.
With those guys.
Yeah.
And I got like their packet, hey, read this stuff and which I'm actually reading for once for an event. But they also want you to fill out like a form that's like, what army are you bringing, so they can fit it all into the narrative and that kind of thing. And I'm really debating between potentially bringing either my Thousand Sons, my Chaos Demons, or maybe your Night Lords.
Why my Night Lords?
Because if I bring your Night Lords, this is why. Because they also judge painting. And I think your army really pops. Okay. Like it does more than my Black Legion. Like it just pops on the table. And everybody that has seen it in person goes, "Oh wow, that is really really cool."
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to go for a painting, like last time I told them, don't judge the painting. I'm just not interested in it. Right. And this time I'm like, do I care enough? Like I'm pretty proud of the way your army came out. Like it
looks amazing.
It looks really good. And we tried some new things and succeeded at them. And I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So if I want to showcase it, I know how to play it because it's basically very similar. Yeah, Chaos Space Marines. Aria really wants to be involved.
She's in such a mood tonight.
Yeah, she really wants to be involved.
She's in a playful mood.
Might have to lock her out of the room. All right. So that's it. I've signed up for the Maelstrom Mixer. I think it's sold out. I'm not positive on that. If you're interested in going, it's in San Jose. It's a great event. It takes over 2 days. You can play Kill Team all weekend. You can play 40K. I think the night before also, Brett was telling me they're doing Battlefleet Gothic, which I haven't played in a long time. And I know that
I don't remember that.
That's the Space Fleet game. You haven't really seen me play it much. Yeah. It's the Space Fleet game I have.
Oh, the teeny tiny spaceships.
Dudes? Yeah.
Okay.
Space dudes, yes.
Spaceships that look like always makes me think of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, kind of.
Those shapes.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, they're big cathedral ships and stuff. You've read the 40K lore, so you know. It's one of those games that people are like, this is the best game Games Workshop ever put out. And then I played it and I'm like, these rules are really dated. So when we played it with Justin and those guys, it was really dated. So, all right. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We'll talk about the meat of the show after I kick Ari out of this room. So we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. And so, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the episode theme here is really about introducing your partner to 40K. I introduced you to 40K actually quite some time ago.
Yeah.
It's just kind of been on a resurgence for you. So we'll kind of talk about that. But I don't know if you recall your first impressions of Warhammer 40K, but one of the reasons I got into it, as I've said on the show before, was we were playing Dungeons and Dragons every Sunday,
right,
for years,
right,
and then friends weren't able to make it, or were showing up late, or infrequently, typical role-playing game group stuff. As people got older and had kids and more responsibilities and that kind of thing. Or decided to do other things, or whatever the case may be. And so I had told you, I'm thinking about getting into this game. I've always kind of been interested in it, but I could play it with one other person if people aren't going to show up.
Right, you don't have to get the whole group together.
Yeah. And so Dave and I bought the starter box for 4th edition, which was Tyranids versus Space Marines. And I told the rest of our friends, I was like, don't get into this because I'm getting into it. Like, I don't want to lead you down a path that I'm suddenly not interested in.
Right.
And so we kind of got into it and we started playing a bit, and then we'd do game days at the house and stuff. Yeah. What was your kind of first impressions around it? I mean, you'd been around me role playing and stuff, so it wasn't a huge leap from that, but what?
I thought it was interesting, but I wasn't interested in it.
Right.
Like it was just something the guys were doing. Like, right. And I was fine. I've always loved having lots of people in the house doing activities and stuff, you know, whether it was D&D nights or
board games
or
rock band.
Rock band. That's what I was trying to think of. I was like, what's the instrument when we used to play rock band?
Yeah.
You know, having a big group come over and hang out and do that. I've always loved doing that. So this was just another one of those things. But it was out in I guess you could call it the boiler room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The big table out there. And I thought the characters or the models were neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I really paid attention to you building them very much. Or even painting him very much.
But at one point you decided I'm interested in doing this with you. What was the motivation? Was it just doing something with me, or was it?
I think so. I think watching you guys play, like I would start to get asked questions and start to try and figure out what was going on. And I like the concept of rolling the dice and moving I love the concept of rolling the dice.
Until they go against you.
Right. And just listen to you guys talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. And Jeff and I had started the podcast too.
By the time I got interested.
I think so. I think that was when you were trying to decide what to do. I was trying to push you to Sisters of Battle.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm not interested in these zealots.
No, I didn't want to deal with the religious.
I think I gave you like, here's a place to look at all the descriptions of the various armies. And then you landed on Eldar.
I mean, I guess part of the thing was like, I wasn't really interested in the whole like militaristic, like part of it. Like battles and war and all that stuff has never been an interest for me. Right.
But it's literally a war game.
So I think that's why I didn't look at it for a long time. And then, you know, at some point, just listening and talking.
Yeah.
We talked about how, okay, maybe I'd like to try.
Yeah.
Playing. And so you gave me a list of different armies and what their backstories. And I think at that point I had probably read.
Yeah, I think you'd read some stuff.
Does it make sense that I would have read Eisenhorn and Beckwin?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
And doing that gave me more of an idea of what was actually going on, that it's not just some battle game.
Right.
That there's a whole
story behind it,
the world behind it. And that pulled me in a little bit.
That's a really interesting point, because a lot of people find their way through other means to this hobby.
Right.
Whether it's video games, like right now, back then it was Dawn of War. Okay. Right now it's Space Marine.
Right.
Space Marine 2. But also the novels. Yeah. Like, and now, I mean, there was a time when I first started and I was reading these books and I was like, I'm out of books. Like I've read every
say that now, can you?
I've read everything they've produced. Now it's like the stuff comes out so fast.
Yeah.
I did just listen to the Morvenn Vahl novel because I'm painting Morvenn Vahl and his Sisters of Battle.
Was there any Sisters of Battle books at that point? I don't
Not yet. No.
I don't think there was. And that was one of the reasons I couldn't.
Yeah. I think, and it was funny because listening to this book, I was thinking back to when you got involved as we were prepping for this. And I was like, yeah, if she'd read this book, she'd have been like, yeah, this is not the army for me. Yeah. They're religious zealots and that's just not your vibe. So you went with super religious. Well, sort of. Well, you didn't go word bearers.
Super fanatic.
But what was interesting then was, so we had an Eldar Codex, and I was like, well, here's all the information about it.
Yeah.
And I remember you were like sitting in bed, like reading the whole codex, like you, not necessarily the unit entries, but you were reading like all the lore about them and all that. And one of the interesting things we did a show force about Eldar at one point. And I just didn't realize how deep that rabbit hole went with the Eldar. Yeah. Like the lore and stuff that was created for them, I've said this before, is phenomenal.
Right.
And like truly really well thought out. It's pretty fascinating. So you decided, okay, maybe I'll do Eldar.
Yep.
And we bought some. I'm sure we bought some from a store, and then we bought probably some eBay deals that we found or whatnot.
Sure. I don't remember any of
I don't remember distinctly, but I remember saying, okay, here's what you're going to need. Like I helped you through here's what you're going to need for a starter set. Then came the assembly and painting of them.
Yeah.
And this,
I mean, I think going into it, I said, I'm not interested in the hobby part. Like
you were actually interested in the paint. You thought you were.
Yeah. I didn't like painting D&D characters, so I don't know why.
But you assembled everything.
Okay. I did do a lot of assembly.
Yeah, you did all the assembly. I remember that was watching you glue your fingers together and stuff.
Over and over again.
As welcome to the hobby. I do it all the time too.
Yeah.
But then we started trying to experiment with you like your favorite colors.
Purple.
And?
Yellow.
Yep. So we were like, oh, I kind of want these guys purple and yellow. So we said, oh, well, what if we did the heads yellow and the bodies purple? And we were just experimenting with airbrushing at that point. I was.
Yeah.
And so we went through, but it wasn't quite like working out.
It wasn't making me happy. Like I looked at him and like, that's not what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And then it kind of died.
Yeah.
Like your interest in it kind of died at that point. Like I think the hobby hump.
Absolutely. It was a brick wall.
Yeah. And so
I was like, well, I can't play these unpainted.
You did a little bit, like just learning the game, but that didn't appeal to you.
Right.
And so you said, if you paint my army, I'll play.
If you paint my army, I'll play with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you didn't paint my army.
I did not. And didn't for a while. And then finally you brought it up. Like it went for a while. I would say maybe almost a year.
Probably. I mean, back then, busy with the kid and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Time probably went by fast.
And then I was making more money and that kind of thing. And we reached out to Dave Paints, and you were like, if you paint the army, I'll play. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to pay to have it.
Pay to have someone paint it. Yeah.
And that was the first thing we had Dave paint. Yeah. Dave Paints. Paint. Yeah. And,
was that the first thing you'd ever had commission painted at all?
No, I don't believe so. I think I'd gotten like a model here or there, but not like a whole army.
Yeah.
And we had done an episode on commission painting, I think, before this happened. Yeah. And David reached out to me and said, hey, how come you didn't reach out to me? I painted this and that and the other thing. And he was active in our forum at the time. And it just hadn't clicked.
2 and 2 together.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, you know what? I think I might have a project for you. And I remember you and I sitting down, and we were talking with him over the internet.
Yeah.
And you described kind of what you want. Well, I want purple with black and, maybe a bone color. You looked around and seen some pictures, and Dave came back.
And I said, I kind of like the teals too. There was some, I think it's the
Maimiara.
The swooping hawks. I was like, I could see them being like this ocean's heel.
Yeah.
Color.
And and so then Dave came back, like he was like, okay, give me 10 minutes. And then he came back with a not fully painted, but conceptually colored and painted with his airbrush Wraith Lord.
Yeah.
And he's like, what about this? And you're like, no, I want more black or
the purple. When I say purple's such a spectrum. Like there's so many purples. And so that's the part that's hard, is like I have a very specific purple I want.
Right.
And so I think the purple wasn't the shadings or the tones that I wanted. I like the darker, deeper aubergine purples. Yeah.
So then he said, okay. And he left, and he gave me 5 minutes, and he came back, and then you were like, oh, that's it. That's it. Like he had hit it.
Yeah.
And it's funny when after he delivered the army, and I'm kind of leaping ahead, but after he delivered the army, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, I want to try to paint some bikes in a similar color. What color did you use? And he's like, oh, I found this purple, and it was like this Creatix hobby paint.
Okay.
Like it's not even a airbrush brand or anything. And you just thin it down, and it's amazing. Yeah. Like it works amazing for that color. So we shipped everything off to Dave.
And I remember being a little nervous about that.
Yeah.
Like when we were boxing, I'm like, but they're all built in the pieces.
I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. And then I think we also, like, there was like something we didn't have, like a Wraith Knight or something.
There was a few things that we purchased and had delivered to him.
Yeah, which he normally doesn't do, like doesn't do assembly and such. Yeah. But I was like, would you be willing to, I'll pay a little bit extra if you'd be willing to, we'll ship it to you from GW. And if you could just assemble that and paint it, that'd be great. So you were nervous about it, but then, you know, I mean, man, Dave is fast.
Yeah.
Like he has commission painting locked in because it was like every day he posts on the Facebook group. Oh, here's what I painted today. Here's what I painted today. He has a technique and a method that work really well for him and really well for the customer, I would argue. Like so the stuff all came back, I think in 1 or 2 boxes. And I remember us unpacking them and like a couple things had come off bases, which is standard, easy to glue right back on. But there was not a model that came out of that box that you were disappointed in.
No.
Like it was really fun. It was almost like Christmas, like opening, watching you open each piece and unwrap it from his bubble wrap.
Right.
And then be like, oh, look at these guys. These are awesome. It was, and at that point, you started getting into 40K again because we had a fully painted army for you.
Yes.
And we played a little bit.
Yes.
But it didn't stick.
And you had a few friends who had Eldar army. So like I had people to talk to about it and encourage me and
give you advice.
Give me advice. You know, guide me on different things here and there.
Yeah. So, okay. But you kind of fell like out of it. You didn't play for a while and then it's a lot to get back into and et cetera, et cetera. And, you played during some of our game days as long as somebody teamed up with you so they could help you like
correct
play through, which I think is fair.
Only certain people that I felt and still feel comfortable
playing against and
teaming up with because I don't say it all the time. I don't want to take away from their playing experience. I don't want to be the one who has to be babysat. Right. And let people have fun.
What's interesting is
I know
almost all of us don't see it that way. Like we're happy to have somebody and give them advice and, you know.
But if you, you
know what? Go.
If you have to give them advice every single time you're playing with them or against them, then that's, at some point, that's enough.
Sure. I think that's probably fair.
Okay.
But we're not nearly at that point. Okay. So
falling out of it, I'm going to add in that I think a major reason I fell out of it was life outside of 40K. Like I think that there was a lot going on, raising your kid,
teaching,
moving schools here and there, my parents.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff going on for a number of years.
So life gets in the way. Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, also I don't know if we say my habits, I go through cycles of things where I'm really interested and excited about things and then they'll fall to the wayside and it's almost like starting from scratch from me. So
how's the knitting going?
Yeah, exactly my point, right? When was the last time? Well, I did in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But exactly that, where it's like I do it,
I'm
very into it. I get very good at it. I get very invested in it and passionate about it.
Yeah.
And then if I fall off of it, it's almost like it doesn't exist. Like it's gone.
I think that's fair. I think a lot of people do that too.
Yeah, I do. But I do it with everything.
And there's even been times where I've like waxed and waned from playing 40K, you know?
Yeah. But, and there were a number of years that, you know, you weren't enjoying playing it. So
we took breaks.
You weren't doing as much. And
yeah, I think that's fair. So, okay. So now let's leap ahead to about 2 years ago.
Okay.
First off, again, with the reading, you've met Aaron Dembski-Bowden.
I haven't met him.
I thought you met Aaron. You met Alan.
I met Alan and John. I have not had a chance to meet Aaron.
Ed? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I met Ed.
Yeah. So, okay.
I've played games with Ed and
But
John
you did read Aaron's Night Lords. In fact, I think you've read everything Aaron has written at this point.
I think I have too. He may have something new out I don't know about.
No.
Okay.
No.
I've read everything.
No, he doesn't, Aaron.
I feel like I didn't read his last book.
Okay. Maybe.
But again, I stop reading for long periods of time where I don't touch any book of any type.
But of his books, the thing that
was Night Lords.
Was the thing that you latched onto are Night Lords. What's interesting is all of a sudden you were coming to me, you're like, I want a Night Lords army. And it started actually with a kill team. I want a Night Lords kill team. And then Caleb painted a Night Lords kill team up for you.
Yep.
But again, you had your own spin on it. You're like, well, I want them purple, not blue.
I did.
Tell me a little bit about the kill team Caleb painted for you.
I think it played it once.
Yeah.
Is that what you're leading at?
But again, no. What I'm leading you to is not just about the playing it, but when you saw it.
Oh, it's stunning.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Was it what you had envisioned?
It was.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the purple's a little bit off for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the
redder side.
I think it's on the redder side.
It is.
Caleb and I have had the argument that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to colors. But I feel like it's more reddish, almost pinkish.
Okay.
And I like a
darker purple.
But I absolutely love the kill team. When we had it, it was the only Night Lords I had.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it was the beginning of it. And it was different enough from the purple of the Eldar.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yes.
Yeah. And so I like that part of it. And I love the what are they called? The possessed.
Yeah, you like the possessed.
With their bluish
skin
and claws and stuff.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think they're really neat.
Yeah, I hadn't expected that, and it looks really demonic. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
So at some point you were like, I want a Night Lord's army. And you said that to me. You're like, oh, I want a Night Lord's army. And I'm like, okay.
I want a Chaos army. I want it to be Night Lords, I think.
And I was like, I don't
want to do it.
How you going to paint that? And you're like, no, I'm not going to paint that. You're going to paint it for me. And that went on for, I'd say, like 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like, yeah, and you'd watch us play. I mean, we'd have game days. Josh and I would play, Aaron and I would play. You'd come out and hang out and, just to hang out and be around people. But I think you were also, every time I'd go off to play in a game or something and come home, be like, did you win? And I'm like, oh, well, no, not again. But, or when Aaron would come over, oh, did you win? Yeah, I beat Aaron. Yeah. But then, I took a break from work.
Yeah.
And I had some time on my hands. And it was like, okay, if you really want to do this, you're like, yes. And so we figured out, here's the models we got to buy. I had a bunch of them already because I'd overbought for my Black Legion.
Yep.
And I'd been painting my Black Legion. And we said, okay, let's get Caleb down here to show us how you did this. And then you can do it. And you're like, yeah, let's get Caleb down here. So Caleb comes down, spends the day with us.
Yeah.
He and Kat, who we're good friends with and we love having around. I talked about this on the show. It was really funny because he was doing like the instruction. I'm like, okay. And I'm following along and I'm like, okay, yeah, that looks like that part looks hard, but conceptually I get it. Mm-hmm. And then he like turns to you and he's like, okay, now it's your turn. And he like hands you the airbrush and you're like, oh God. And I could see,
I think I almost threw up. I was just like, how am I going to do this?
I could see the panic in your eyes.
Yeah.
But he walked you through it. He's good at walking through, but he's also good at pushing you. He's good at pushing you to do.
He is good at both.
Like there's times where I was painting something, I'm like, just you do it. He's like, I'm not going to do it. You do it. So that if you want it done, and I'm like, okay. But I did get a good sense of the approach and I was like, okay, I think I could do this. And I had the time on my hands. And so I started painting Night Lords models. Yes. And I was like, okay, I'm going to paint these guys. And now I'm going to paint, I think I did the Terminators. And then where I think it really caught you was you were in bed one morning. I was up airbrushing and painting. And then you came out and I'd had like your Land Raider and like your 2 Predators all with the purple and the lightning on it. And you came out and you go, that looks badass. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I can't tell you how happy I was to hear you say that. And then something happened where you said, well, if you do this, I'll paint the rest of it. and if you tell me how to paint it, I'll paint the rest of it. And the next thing I knew, like you were monopolizing my painting desk and you were painting like more and more models.
Yeah.
Like even to the point where you're like, I want a Helldrake. And I'm like, I'm not painting. You're like, I'll do the edging. And you did for 3 days. You did freaking trim on the Helldrake.
I love doing edging.
I mean, and you're pretty darn good at it. Like it was really, so what was it that switched like for you? Because you went from not interested in painting.
Yeah.
And maybe I can see why the Eldar like were a thing. Like it wasn't coming out it was different time, but it also wasn't coming out how we wanted.
Yeah.
To hear it's definitely coming out how you wanted.
Yeah.
But what was it that drove you? Because you've painted a lot of your army. Yeah. Like I've done a lot of the base coats on your army in the Lightning, but then you take it from there.
All the details. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the trigger was. And that's the thing about me. Just like, I don't know what drives me sometimes. I tried it. It looked good. I was happy.
Okay. So that's an interesting,
if I
point.
try it,
if it had looked terrible,
successful.
If it had looked terrible when you tried it,
I probably wouldn't have tried it.
It would have stopped you,
it
right?
It would have either way slowed me down or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting because you painted your entire Beastman.
That was so much fun.
Your goat boys.
And that's the other thing I started painting before we really got into the, that reminds me, before we really got into the Night Lords, is that you had taught me the slap chop for the Shadows of Brimstone guys.
Right. So we were playing a board game called Shadows of Brimstone where there's a lot of miniatures with it.
Yeah.
And we were painting up monsters.
So many different monsters and creatures and stuff that you play against.
Right.
And
we were like, let's just slap chop this thing.
I really wanted them painted.
Yeah.
And you looked at them and said you had been doing slap chop on some other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Where you knew about it. And you're like, I think slap chop would work on this. And I'm like, well, let me try that too.
Yeah.
And those all came with cards.
Yes.
That gave you the paints to use in each section. Remember?
At least the colors. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So it was kind of a paint by number thing for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that doing that and having that be successful.
Yeah. Gave you the confidence.
Gave me the, hey, I think I could do.
Interesting.
These little pieces on the Night Lords.
Yeah, yeah.
Doing the Beastmen was so much fun.
I think that slap chop method especially for board game figures and stuff is just like I did that whole, the Warhammer fantasy game that we played once since I painted it all up with Aaron, Curse City, where you're like going in and they came out great. They're like all the models look fantastic. I think it's a great method for getting stuff on the table very quickly and looking good. Yeah. And so you slap chopped your Beastmen. And it was funny because you were like, well, these don't look very good. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like those look really, really good. Yeah. And, in fact, one popped off a base and I just glued him back to the base the other day. And as I was looking at it, I'm like, man, these guys came out really good. Like Chelle did a really good job. And it was funny because I pulled out, and I think I said this on the show, I pulled out one of my original Space Marines because I was like, let me show you what my first painting looked like. And I show you Space Marine, oh, that looks terrible. I'm like, well, thank you. But it also is a different time. Even from, and this is an interesting point, even from when you were doing the Eldar, it was a different time. Painting wasn't accessible, wasn't as easy. There weren't as many tutorials. All that has come out. Speed paints have come out. So I think if people are wanting to get their significant other into the game and or maybe even the painting aspect of it, like that is such a leap forward that you get such good results so quickly. And there's
huge support around it, like the videos and the tutorials and the information out there and the supplies.
Right.
It's much more supported than it was.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you get such good results. I mean, listen, you're not going to win a golden demon slap chopping something.
I'm taking my Beastman.
You know what? You should submit them at Adepticon.
Yeah, right. That'd be hysterical.
But it does get you such a leap forward that I think people who are new to the hobby who are intimidated
by the painting,
oh, well, I don't want to do painting. You show them how to do this method, and then it's like, oh, look at the great results I got very quickly. Yeah. if you want to then pursue more painting experience, you could then do that.
Take the next step.
But you can get stuff onto the table looking good. And if you have access to an airbrush, quite frankly, like I wouldn't use speed paint on a Space Marine, just like out of the bottle, because it'll leave unless you're very careful, it tends to leave like watermark almost looking stuff. It doesn't go on smooth. But if you slap chop a Space Marine, right? So you do the grays and then a white for the high areas. And then you have an airbrush and you filter a speed paint through an airbrush over it, you will get that color and that gradient without it just applies smoother.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is, like, let's say you want to do a Space Marine army and you're like, I don't like the airbrush. I'd be like, what color do you want? Here, you go slap chop prep all these and I'll do the airbrush part of it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and you would very quickly get an army on the table. So, I mean, it's just another barrier that I think some people get intimidated, especially new players get intimidated by the painting aspect. And, we tend to play with all painted stuff here.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was a time where we didn't, there was a time where we were figuring the game out and whatnot. There was a time where I was playing my Death Guard and I had a bunch of stuff. I had a bunch of it undercoated. And then I would play with it, but then I was making progress. So every time I was playing, like it was getting more and more progression.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me. And I mean, like Travis too, like Travis wants to play with people who have put the effort and work into it that he does. Because for us, it's not just playing the game, it's the visual aspect of it. And that's one of the things, like I keep showing people pictures of that 4,000 point per side game we played.
It was really
on the table. It looked amazing. Yeah. It looked amazing, And so that's what is important to our group.
Correct.
So that's interesting that, and now, I mean, you've taken a break from painting for a bit. And me too. Like I've gone in waves. Like I painted 2 armies.
You painted a lot that last year.
Yeah, started painting the sisters and I just ran out of steam. But now I'm starting to make some progress on these Paragon war suits. And I'm like, okay, this is going to look cool when this is done. And then what's next, So I want to get like a force that I can put on the table. Yeah. So I'm not ready to commit to bringing sisters to the Maelstrom mixer in 2 months. It's a little aggressive, especially now that I'm working. Yeah. So, okay. We mentioned earlier you were reading a lot of the books and that kind of thing at one point.
Yeah.
That proved to be a good entry point for you into the hobby as well. What themes and what lore did you like? I mean, we know you like the Night Lords. Why? Like, what was it about the Night Lords books? Other than they're written very well.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was the relationships. I think that
I couldn't tell you the characters' names at this point, so don't even look at me.
Oh no, I'm not trying to think of characters' names.
Savitar is one of them, right?
Talos is main character.
Yeah.
Octavia is the navigator that he.
Yeah, the female.
He kidnaps.
Right.
But then they also kind of end up having this interesting relationship.
Yeah. Oh, so that was what you found.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But then also seeing the insight into the. Trying to think of the words for what I'm trying to say. They just don't care.
Right.
Right. They just have their goal and they just don't care and they just do it. And some of them, like one of the characters, I think he's insane. He's completely insane.
This is the corn worshiping one, right?
I don't remember that part.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's just off the deep end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And he just goes around and just slaughters to slaughter. And he has to be stopped. Like he'll even slaughter his own.
That's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just,
because they're like getting influenced, like each of them is getting kind of influenced by these gods subtly, while Talos is like, he doesn't want to be, it's interesting because they have a spectrum of how involved they are with the chaos gods.
Yeah. And there's his whole interaction with Abaddon was really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And when I first read it, like I knew nothing about him. And I would come to you and go, okay, who's this Abaddon guy?
Right.
And what's going on there? And so we'd have conversations around that. And so, I went off and read other stuff that involved them as well.
Yeah.
But I think it doesn't matter who's writing the stories. Mm-hmm. They all interweave to each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that draws me in a lot.
There's a huge amount of lore and backstory to 40K at this point.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things about the game that I feel like people tend to focus on, like, oh, I've got Abaddon on the table. And it's like, okay, but like the galaxy is massive. He's not everywhere. You know, do you think your army plays kind of how you envision it yet, or you're not comfortable enough with it to say, or like how, like, is it playing how you expected it?
So yes. And
okay.
Each time I play, I try and remind myself, like when I'm making decisions, the Night Lords would do it this way.
Oh, really?
Even I've started.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
A little bit more and more, and so I'm a little more. I don't want to say reckless.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how they play, right? And it's more about you don't expect these guys to come at you the way they do, so you have to just create the fear of the Night Lords.
Sure.
Right. And I've been trying to, as I play, I start thinking about that more because I am thinking a little less about the how to play.
Right.
And the how to.
We got to get you some jump pack troops and stuff. For
the Havoc.
Yeah. Or not Havocs.
What are they called?
I'm drawing a blank now that I mentioned it. Yeah. But those are the guys that really impact, like, make force leadership tests and that kind of stuff because they're frightening and that kind of thing. So.
Well, and I really like my Forge Fiend and my Venom Crawler and the mechanic part of it.
So when we started playing, it was funny because, like, we would play and I was playing my Black Legion and you would play your guys, and then you didn't have particular models like a Forge Fiend or something. And then, like, I would shoot with the Forge Fiend and you're like, it does what? Well, I need one of those. You know? And like,
I did that with the Obliterators. Yeah. I did that with the Forge Fiends. And then I watched, I don't even remember who was here playing. It wasn't Lars, but he was playing against Lars.
Was it, it wasn't Michael Dunsmore.
It was Michael who had the Venom Crawler and the,
he had a bunch of them.
The Warp Smith. And I went, what is that? What did that just do?
Yeah. I didn't even realize it was as good as it was.
I watched it. I came over to you. I'm like, I need one of those.
I was like, I think I got some.
I'm like, good. We're putting it together. And I put it together the next day.
We went out and I had 4 of them. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So helps to have a whole closet full of chaos.
Does it now?
We've been, it actually has been helpful in the sense that as we were building your army, it was like for your sorcerer, your Terminator sorcerer, we're like, well, let's just put it together from all these pieces of guys we have.
Kit bashed.
We did. We did. He came out pretty good too. That was one guy I painted. And I did like the arm holding the book on his, mounted on his back.
You mostly did my Terminators.
Yeah, I think so.
I wasn't into it yet.
Yeah. Okay. So as we were playing, as we started getting you into the game, and again, you're not real strong in the rules at that point. You would argue you're not strong in the rules now. I would agree you're
numbers don't stick in my head.
I would say you're not.
If there's numbers involved. Yeah. It's fuzzy for me.
I would say you're not strong at the rules, but watching you play now compared to when you play, you don't realize how far you've come.
Okay.
You personally don't see how far you've come. But I mean, it's, if we go play tomorrow, it would be, okay, so this guy's strength 4 and this is toughness 4. What do you need to wound?
Force.
There you go. If it matches, it's 4. If you're weaker, the number gets higher. It gets harder to get
5s and 3s.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
I mean, just like to roll lots of dice.
But so that's why. But also that's why a lot of times what happens when we play usually, and it goes on for a long time because we take our time playing. But I can tell when you start getting tired. And one of the advantages we have here is we can leave it out and then come back to it.
Yeah.
But usually what happens is, as we're playing early, I'll be like, okay, so this is strength 7 and your toughness 5. So what do I need to wound? And then you'll be like, 3s. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then as the game finally goes on and I can see you're getting tired, I'm like, okay,
roll this.
Yeah. You need 4s. Okay. You need 3s.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, just cause I can tell you're like, I'm at my limit and I'm ready for some assistance. Yeah. And it seems to work well for us. I mean, I think we've had fun every game we played You were getting frustrated. You were like, I keep losing. And I'm like, well, I've been playing a lot longer. And then I was like, you know what? Let me play this army I'm not familiar with at all. Yeah. And it's not like a super powerful combination. And I brought out my Zeech demons, and then you won that game, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, back in.
And I had fun playing them because I was like, oh, look at what these guys do. Yeah. There's a new, so Be'lakor, the demon guy.
Yeah.
There's a new formation. I don't know if it's new, but it's been revised.
Okay. And
you can now use him with Chaos Space Marines and demons, and I've got some ideas on what I want to do there. So, this is the problem. You're always coming up with like new ideas for like, it's called like a shadow force or something like that. Okay. And I was like, what would be cool is if like you had Be'lakor, who's all black, right? And then you have like Chaos Space Marines with him. But what if you took like demons, like he had like Flamers of Zeech, but you did them like all in a dark black scheme with like highlights of blue on them or something, or you did like every unit he had was basically black as its base coat.
Got it. And
it would be like, oh, their shadow, like kind of, it'd be kind of cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
Do I really want a third Chaos Army? Fourth Chaos Army at this point? Probably not. I'll figure it out.
You got other stuff right now.
I got other stuff going on. Okay. So list building. The other thing we did for you was we came up with your initial list, right? And I helped you. I was like, okay, you like this, you like that. Okay, we'll put these in and we build this thing around it. Here's why you want this. This is good. This is good.
Okay.
Then you started getting into it and I was like, well, the app is super useful. And I find the app useful because not only can you see your army there, but it also tells you when you can use your various stratagems and stuff, like in what turn.
Yes.
So we had to buy another Chaos Space Marine Codex because in order for you to have it on your iPad, you have to have your own code. And it ties to your Apple ID. Okay, so great. So we get you a Codex. But you've been like building lists on that thing quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you kind of muck around with, I like these guys. I like these guys. How have you found the app to be for like building lists? I know one frustration point I'm not going to mention, but I'm curious to hear like, how have you found using that app in like building out kind of what you want to do?
I think it's very intuitive. I forget to go in deeper to change.
Oh yeah.
Like your mark.
So like
slight enhancements. It's not how it used to be.
Yeah. It used to be more involved actually.
It used to be that you'd have to go do a bunch of.
You'd have to pick like, this guy's going to have, I have to pay extra points for this guy to have a power fist. Now I pay extra points.
And I remember doing that with the Eldar. And then you'd print out a list and use it. Like it wasn't an app, but it was a computer program.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I like what we have now better.
You just play from your iPad.
You can play from your iPad and you can make changes quickly.
Yeah.
And you can read what each thing is doing as it changes.
One of the things you don't like
is the points.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I don't like how the points work.
Because you're like, I have 2,000 points, but I'm at 1,995. I want to spend that other 5.
Okay, I can handle 5. It's when I've got 15 points sitting there that I get really frustrated.
You got to let go of it, though. And the reason I say is because it used to be like you were spending 5 and 7 points and 3 points. And some people love that customizability. I just found it got in the way of just playing on the table, And it's usually, your opponent is usually also not at exactly 2,000.
Okay, then why have 2,000? I don't know.
Well, okay, go ahead. No, what?
Why do you have that number of 2,000 if nothing ever equals 2,000?
Because that you can't go over that. That's your limit of what you can go. You can't go over.
I just feel like it should get closer. I just feel like it should be within 5 or 10. 15's too much for me.
Choose different.
35 is too much for
35 is a lot. Like you could do a lot with 35 points.
But you can't with my
You could take enhancements to your bosses.
A little bit there. Yeah. I like it when that happens. But I'd like to take
I think it's fair.
I'd like to take another unit.
Sure.
For
so would I.
35 points. Yeah. Okay.
But okay.
Laugh at me, Tuttle.
No, not laughing at you. But okay. So what if you were 20 points short?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? And you're like, I want to take another 5 Space Marines. And I go, okay. And I go, so then I get another 5 Space Marines, but now I'm 15 points ahead of you or whatever, like.
So I feel like you should add a Space Marine to get closer, right?
Gotcha.
Instead of having a group of 5, if you add one more, now you got a team of 6. Why can't you do that?
That's how it used to be.
Okay.
That's how it used to be.
Well, it used to be right.
No. I think you would find, I could be wrong.
I'll never know.
Yeah, you'll never know.
I'll never know.
Unless they go back to it. You know what? We'll go play a game of 5th edition and I'll show you.
I have 15 points. I should be able to get 4 goat boys in there.
Yeah, they're overcosted anyway. I'm disappointed they didn't lower their points.
They don't do much. If you get them in there.
They die.
Have yours ever even scored points?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally. But usually they die the first time. Yeah. If they could scout, I'd love if they could scout.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. Anyway, challenges in learning the rules. It's a lot to take on.
It is a lot of rules.
And I think players, probably a lot of people who are listening to this, we don't realize we've had the benefit of years of playing this and comprehension around it to where it's second nature to us a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Especially this edition. I rarely have to go look at the rule book for something now, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Occasionally I do, but not like I used to have to. And the app makes it so easy that you don't have to look at your codex.
Pull out the book, find the page.
Yeah. But I think we take for granted how much we are comfortable with at this point. Whereas I've watched you, a new player, starting from scratch, really, and I'm like, wow, this is a big hill to climb for people. It would be for a brand new player who didn't know people or have friends in the hobby. It was like, I want to get into this. I can see how it would be incredibly daunting. Mm-hmm. Unless you met most people.
There are always exceptions to what you do, right?
Of course.
Everything. There are people who could get into it just easily, but
yeah, but I think most people join because friends are doing it.
Yeah.
And then they have somebody that can help them not just read the rules and then implement them, but walk them through here's how it plays. And one of the things I really liked about 4th edition, which was the edition we got into first, we bought the Battle for McCrag box set. And Dave and I and we're going to play, and a bunch of people came over, all the friends, to say, hey, we're going to go through the tutorials and stuff to see if you guys are interested. And so Dave and I walked through the tutorials, and the first tutorial I remember was just, here's how you move your guys, right? Move them. Your objective is to get across the board. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay. And you have to stay in cohesion, right? And then the next thing was okay, you're going to move, but now you're going to shoot these guys. And so we're going to walk you through how you shoot them. Right. And then it was now you're going to actually get in a close combat fight. And so it walked you through every step of the game. Yeah. Whereas now I haven't looked at any of the beginner stuff, but I don't think there's the tutorials.
I feel like there is something like that. When we've gone to the stores, I feel like there's a section where there are
new, you buy new starter sets, but I have to
feel
look into it.
Look at it. I think, and I can see the case in the Lost Gatos store.
Yeah.
Where it has this will walk you through each step of it.
Oh, interesting.
And I feel like it's a reintroduction of that kind of thing.
Check that out. I'm going to check that out. All right.
I might not be correct.
What,
Here's a thing I want to say about playing the game that I think it's taken for granted by players who've been playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that just learning my own army?
Yes.
Is a lot.
Yeah, good point.
And then there are all these other armies that are designed to kill my army. And you have to know. And
they play entirely different than your army.
Entirely different. Yeah. Night Lords versus Necrons. It's two different, it seems like it should be two different games.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't.
That's where the game explodes in its terms of not only complexity, but also interest, right? Yeah. We're not just playing chess. When you and I were primarily walking you through stuff, we were playing chaos versus chaos.
Right.
And I did that intentionally too, so that you could be oh, you see what I do.
Right.
And now you can do kind of a similar thing.
But we didn't do that when I played Eldar all the time.
No, we didn't. And that was my mistake. And what's funny is, we were talking about Battlefleet Gothic earlier. When I was first getting kind of into it a little bit, we were playing a little bit. I remember Steve came over and Steve was playing Eldar in Battlefleet Gothic. And he was still learning how to play too. And then, so we'd go this, okay, here's how you move. And he's like, oh, well, the Eldar do that differently. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then it was like, okay, so here's how missiles work. Oh, well, the Eldar do that differently. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, his army broke every rule that every other thing had. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about the game.
Agree.
But it's also why it's hard to balance the game.
It's also hard to get people into the game.
Yeah.
Right?
What I tend to do when I don't understand the army I'm playing across the way is you just have to trust the person is doing their roles correctly. And you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, whatever. Cool.
Okay, here,
go ahead.
Knowing which one of my units or vehicles
yeah, you said it right. Units. You're right.
Is going to be best equipped to take out
correct
yours.
Correct.
Is a lot to know.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where I think I get bogged down a lot.
Yeah. And that is the hardest part. When I would play Dave, Dave was playing Tyranids all the time. And he'd have like all these giant monstrous Tyranid creatures. And I had no clue what they were. No clue. Right. I didn't know the difference between a Carnifex, a Hive Tyrant, none of it. And I remember like he'd line up all his guys and I'd be ready to shoot his guys. I'm like, it's called target priority.
Right.
What's the one I should be shooting at? I don't know. And so I'd literally be like, what's that guy? And he'd be like, that's a Carnifex. I'm like, okay. What's that guy? That's a Hive Tyrant. What's that guy? That's another Hive Tyrant. What's that guy? Because I couldn't tell the difference even looking at them until I played them. And then I was like, oh, I understand them now.
Well, that's kind of how I felt with the Necrons over.
Yeah.
I think the last 3 games I've played have been against Necrons.
Yeah.
Done with Necrons.
I don't like them. But it's a very good point. It's a very good point on your part. And so, yeah, that adds to the complexity of learning. So a lot of times you got to kind of just play it, take your lumps, and then go, okay, next time I know that thing I need to kill. That's like when they had the Night Lord out. I'm like, we need to either avoid or deal with this thing, So,
Nightbringer, is that what he's called?
Nightbringer. Nightbringer. Yeah, I say Night Lord. Nightbringer.
You did.
Yeah, night this, night that. Okay. Of the games we've played, that you have been involved in so far, any specific moments stand out to you that you were like, that was a really cool moment, or anything that resonates with you? No?
No.
Okay.
That doesn't stick in my head.
No. All right.
Do you have one?
Playing against you?
Yeah. Or us playing together as a team?
I think when our Demon Princes fought.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
And we were like, yeah, okay, they're going to fight. And I think you ended up winning that battle too.
I don't know.
And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that was fun. I really enjoyed our super large game.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it took all day.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was time well spent.
Yeah.
And I mean, we took a break. We had lunch and then we came back and played. And I got to play with you and we were working together. And
I like when we play over days because it gives me a chance to refresh my energy or my enthusiasm for it, right?
So you know what one of the solution for that is?
No.
We play smaller games.
Yeah.
We play 1,500 points, not 2,000 points, right? We play, God help us, 1,000 points, right?
I think we've only played a 2,000 point game
once or twice. Yeah. Well, twice because then we played
with the
4,
team playing. Yeah, I agree.
And team games always take longer.
Yeah.
Because you're conferring with your friend and there's a lot of stuff on the table and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, if we just switch back to 1,500 point games, which is by the way what the Maelstrom Mixer is, that would work quite well, I think, for faster games.
Yeah.
Okay. We have spent some time together doing stuff, whether it's painting together or playing together. When we're playing, like, I don't feel this way usually when I play 40K though. Like the game is inherently competitive. You are playing against me. I am playing against you.
Yes.
But I don't ever feel like so invested in it that I'm losing and I get upset that I'm losing.
No.
You know, I feel like at the end of the day, we had fun on the table and we laughed and we saw some cool stuff die. And I got to do this with my Demon Prince or whatever. And then I was like, oh yeah, it was a time well spent.
Right.
You have now spent time playing games with me quite a bit and my friends. Like, how do you feel about that time being spent? Like, we have a whole game day. We're playing all day.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
You don't feel like I'd rather have done something else at that time because everybody here is doing that.
Yeah.
So you're part of the group.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't. And I think, I mean, honestly, it's kind of one of the reasons I got so involved in it is because I do see it as a good use of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting too that like it's given us more to talk about again. Well, I mean, okay, look, we're coming up on our 25th wedding anniversary, right? We've been married a long time. It doesn't feel like a long time. But everybody I tell, because we're organizing a party and I'm like, oh yeah, it's 25th. They're like, wow, congratulations. I'm like, it's gone fast.
Doesn't feel like 25 years.
I think it's yet another thing that we've been able to do together. As we are getting older, it's become for me less about buying more things or having more things and more about experiences that we're having together.
Right.
And whether that is going to a Formula One race or going to Hawaii or going to see our kid graduate or just going to dinner, you know, at a nice restaurant that we want to go to or playing Warhammer 40K or board games.
Yeah.
Like I'm enjoying that time together. And I think that the emphasis of you playing 40K isn't to go play other people or go to a tournament and play at a tournament or even an event. And
For
play
me.
an event.
To go.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
It is so that you can spend more time with me and I can spend more time with you.
Yes.
I think.
That's a large part of it.
Okay.
Also.
Yeah. I don't want to put words into your mouth.
Also.
Yeah.
You talk about it. We're immersed in it.
Yeah.
All the time because of the podcast, but it's also what you do and what you've been doing for a long time, which is what you enjoy doing. It's what our group of friends is really kind of a chunk of our friends have come out of it, right?
Now Adepticon friends too,
if
right?
I'm surrounded by it all the time,
okay,
I might as well also be playing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean for you, I mean for
even before I was really playing, I mean the books, you'd read the book and then you want to tell me about a book and we would talk about the book. And so it's like, I kind of got
sucked.
Yeah. In a way sucked in, right?
Yeah.
Like it was always swirling around me, always part of what's going on around here. It's always about conversations.
Yeah.
You know, anytime we'd get together with somebody, you guys would have this conversation about things. And so I was almost immersed in it.
Right.
That it was kind of inevitable.
Right. Okay.
But also I enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean the game and the community and the hobby of it. Yeah, I've kind of been steeping in it for a number of years.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know what I mean? It's like
true.
immersion. It's like I kind of live it anyway, and now I've kind of
taken that next
the next step with it.
Do you think attending Adepticon pushed some of those buttons?
Of course it did.
Really?
Yeah.
What about Adepticon did? You really enjoyed the Space Hulk thing.
Oh,
enough that we bought all their stuff.
Yeah. You want to talk about memorable moments and
there you go.
Pivotal game moments that sucked me into it.
Killing Josh.
Well, yeah. Anytime you can kill Josh, it's a good thing. It happens so rarely. But even the year before that, before I played with them, the year that, because I flew in, first time I did Adepticon, you'd already been there like 3 days.
Really?
You flew out there.
Okay.
And then I took...
It was like 2 days later. You came in, but I was playing that, and then I had you come in and...
Right. So my point is, you had been at Adepticon for 2 to 3 days.
Right.
I flew in.
That's right.
And you guys you were in the...
Space Hulk game
when I got to the...
Right. And you started playing with me, my guys.
So I was watching you.
Yeah.
And just observing. And then I started kind of, I did a play or two. You had to go get pizza or something.
Yeah. And I said, you take
like,
over.
here, you take over.
Yeah.
And
people were around to help. And Troy
absolutely.
and those guys from Basement of Death are so good at that.
I think the group was half of our friends. There were a few guys that we didn't know, but
so it was the next year that you were like, can I play the Tyranids?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the first year.
No, the first year I kind of just watched over your shoulder, and then I stepped in and played your guys for
a round or two.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I got I really liked that game, and I really liked the way it played.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that kind of
interesting. And
then when we decided I was going back the next year, and I said, "Oh, we're going to play Space Hulk, right?" You said, "Of course we are."
Right.
And I said, "Do you think?" And you said, "Do you want me to get you a spot in it?"
Right.
Your own spot. And I said, "Do you think that I could play the Tyranid side?"
Right. Because for those who don't know, at Adepticon, I've talked about this 100 times, the Basement of Death guys run a Space Hulk event where it's like 6 Space Marine teams on a giant 3D Space Hulk board playing against the Basement of Death guys who are kind of running the scenario.
Right.
And they're not like super aggressive about it. Like they're trying to make it fun, but they're challenging you and you will lose. Like, but yeah, they're really great they've got it nailed. So yeah, they were, and I think I just sent them an email. I said, hey, could Chelle
was curious if she could play it from the other side of the board.
They were like, heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then that's the time that I
killed Josh.
Just targeted him.
So there you go. If anything sticks out in your memory, that does. Yeah. So, okay. So that, but also I think the other thing that I noticed at Adepticon that you latched onto, obviously I have a lot of friends there.
Yeah.
But they're super nice. Yeah. And like Dave Taylor and Damon and, all those guys were just so friendly to you. Paul. Yep. And they were just so friendly to you, and Matt. And so they like immediately made you feel included.
Correct.
Which I noticed. Yeah. Oh, because we played Shadows of Brimstone with Matt's stuff. Matt was the one that got me into it.
Right.
And you were all about that. Like, and so it was so
we
interesting.
had been playing it at home for a year because you discovered it there when I hadn't gone.
Right.
Game got home before you did.
I discovered it when I went out there to help them paint that one time.
Yeah.
And I asked Matt, what is this game? And so I bought it. And
And then we ran that game a couple of times in the boardroom. It was
so
really fun.
What I really appreciated was that those guys immediately made you like you were included and you were part of everything and they wanted you involved. And, this is one of the things I really love about that event is like, those are my people, like, and now they're your people too. And, like we just found out one of our friends is not going.
I'm so disappointed.
And it's like, oh, what do you mean?
Darn it.
So Dave, right? Dave's not going.
Damon.
Oh, is Damon not going?
Damon's not going.
Oh man. That sucks.
Yeah.
Damon's great. All right. Well, Dave's great too. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think, ensuring that if you're trying to get your significant other involved in this, like they need to feel included.
Yeah. And not the outside.
Right.
The outsider.
Right.
What am I trying to say? Trying to peek in the door.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. They're not a guest.
Yeah.
They're not a guest.
Not a guest.
They're a member of the family.
Yeah. And
I think that that's super important. If that doesn't make sense, I'll try one more stab at it, which is just, there's a difference between tolerating somebody's presence and accepting them. And, if you truly want your significant other involved, then you have to involve them, not,
correct.
Not just be like, yes, and you can play, and there's some work to it. Right. Like, we have these game days and it's like, I'm like, I will partner with you, I will make sure that you are playing somebody that I know you're going to have a really good experience with.
Correct.
And I sometimes give up going and playing with Brett or somebody that maybe I'd like to take another shot at, because I'm like, well, I want to make sure you enjoy your time too. And that doesn't detract from my time. Let me be clear, because I can already see it on your face. That does not detract from my time. But there are changes you have to make sure that person feels comfortable and included.
Correct.
That's just
I have
nature
been to other 40K events.
Okay.
Right. I've been to a number of them.
Yeah. LVO, Adepticon,
Nova.
That's right. Yeah. Those are the big three.
I know, but there was one in downtown San Jose.
Yeah. That was the Bay Area Open.
And I did not feel the family community feel
right
at all of those.
Right. And
there are places that I've gone and just watched you play, because I don't play at any of those events. Let me be clear. But just watching you and your friends play have been made to feel that I'm in the way.
Oh, gotcha.
Or, right?
Not by me.
No, not you. I'm just saying the vibe in some of those places are
right.
Not to pull people in and not to just turn and talk to you when you walk up and stuff.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, a lot of these are like hardcore tournaments.
Yeah.
LVO is a hardcore tournament.
Yeah.
It's all about, I'm trying to win.
There's blinders on.
And I'm not interested in somebody being around.
Asking questions or.
A lot of times, like, I'm even cautious when I'm asking, like, can I take a picture of your painted model? Right. Or, can I ask you a question about the model? Like, because I'm interrupting what they're doing, and they're clearly very focused. And whereas Adepticon, they have that event if you want to go play them. But there's
so much else going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Nova too. Nova has quite a bit.
Nova was like that too. Yeah.
Although we spent most of the time, you definitely spent a lot of time behind the table for charities.
The charities, yeah.
Sure. So okay. I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing. Just making sure that your partner is your partner in all of it. And I mean, that sounds like you laugh.
I'm laughing because that's kind of the point of
it seems obvious to you, right? And I, right?
Yeah.
But we have also a relationship that's lasted 26 years now and without a hiccup, and you have always been very supportive of my hobbies. There was a time where early on where you were like, I think you're spending too much time on the podcast. And I was like, okay, I'll stop it because you're more important to me.
It wasn't about me. It was about
but it was my time was taken up with a lot of it.
And there was a period of time that I needed more.
Yeah. Focus on the kid.
On the family.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And I was like, okay, I'll stop. And you felt guilty about that, but I was like, don't worry about that. Like, that's not the important thing here. You're the important thing. The kid's the important thing, blah, blah, blah. And then what was interesting was after we had that conversation, we were driving up from Southern California and we stopped by and hung out with Blake and Ed and Big Cat from Life After the Cover Save. Mm-hmm. And we all did dinner. Mm-hmm. And I think Bill was there too, if I remember correctly.
Probably.
I don't know if Bill was there. But then we stopped there on our drive back up and you had dinner with these guys. And then we got in the car. It was
a claim jumper, huh?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got in the car and you're like, you can't stop the podcast. And I was like, what are you talking about? And you're like, I can see how much it means to you and other people. Yeah. And then we were like, well, we'll figure out what the correct balance is.
It became a balancing thing.
Yeah. So, again, partnership is super important.
Communication.
Yeah. And communication is super important. But yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing like your journey through this. Like it's interesting to hear your perspective on it. I know I did a lot of talking.
That's okay.
But yeah, look, I know you weren't excited about coming on the show. There's a reason you haven't. You are used to it. Fair enough. There's a reason you haven't been on the show really ever. I think once before.
There are reasons.
Maybe twice because it's just not your thing and you're not interested in kind of being behind the mic or in front of the camera. Sure, but I do appreciate your input because I think one of the things that frustrates me the most, and I've seen this with a number of people involved in this hobby, or I've seen them post, oh, my girlfriend thinks my gaming time is stupid and I shouldn't do it. Or, they think I should be doing more productive things with my time. And I'm like, do they watch TV?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course they watch TV. Doesn't sound very productive to me.
Right.
Like it's all, we have to have, as people in a relationship, like our thing that we enjoy doing and be supported by the other person for it. You more than support me in this. Like you join me in it, which is just fantastic. You have hobbies that, for example, the knitting and whatnot, that when you get into it, I'm like, how do I support this? Your friend dropped out of doing the cooking class at Sur La Table that one time.
Dumpling.
And you were like, for soup dumplings.
Because I love to cook.
And you were like, oh, would you think you'd want to go with me? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go with you.
Cooking's not your thing.
No, but I was always curious how soup dumplings got made, and by God, now I know. And so I think that
you humor my need to hit every zoo in every city.
In every city.
Because you're not into zoos.
I'm not a zoo
but
guy.
I am zoo crazy.
Yeah. I will say the Australia Zoo was impressive.
I know.
And
maybe I've converted you to a zoo person.
No. Just like I don't really like going to museums and art exhibits.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Yeah. But if we go to Paris and you go to the Louvre, you'll be like, oh, I see why people like art exhibits. It's the Australia Zoo of art exhibits.
It's amazing.
It is impressive.
Incredible.
So, so it frustrates me when I hear people who have partners that don't support them in what they're doing. And I'm not saying support it to excess like you support mine to excess.
But I know what you're saying. But that's also...
But they can't rally against it.
Yeah.
Right? If that's what you enjoy, stand by what you enjoy. And they don't have to get involved in it. That's fine. It would be great if they did. Because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, my wife doesn't play board games. And I'm like, maybe you just haven't found the right board game.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just not like Samina.
Yeah.
Doug's wife.
Yeah.
Not into board games.
Very supportive of all of us coming over playing board games.
Has zero interest.
Zero interest in games.
Fine.
Period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's just not her thing.
No.
Her thing is work. So that's fine, but she was always supportive of Doug,
right?
Doing what he wanted and blah, 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 even though she called him Peter Pan a couple times.
Well, he was.
And so, I appreciate that you have not just supported, but now gotten involved. And if tomorrow you were like, I don't really want to play this anymore, I'm done, I'd be like, well, I got a beautifully painted Night Lord's army I can play with.
I don't think that's what we got coming up with Pipe Babe.
I might start playing your Eldar now.
I got projects planned of my own.
Oh, is that so? So anyway, we'll both be at Adepticon.
Yes.
I'm running the 40K Flex.
A couple of days.
2 out of the 4 days.
Which means I'm running the 40K Flex for a couple of days.
Or you can go off and do whatever you want, but you'll help.
There's no zoo nearby.
You're bringing your army.
I am.
You're not going to the Milwaukee Zoo.
I don't think there is one.
I don't know.
I think there's like a animal.
There's probably a Laverne and
wildlife place, but not a zoo.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening and you're going to Adepticon, you want to come hang out, we'll be at the 40K Flex. Probably even to some degree in our off days, I may just swing by and
check in on it.
Yeah, check in on it, see how it's going. So, and I'm going to play a bunch of demo games. Is there anything other than Space Hulk you're thinking about wanting to do at Adepticon?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Just whatever strikes your fancy.
Yeah, this and that.
We did some demos of board games last time we were there.
We did.
Yeah. That's why we bought the Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll try some of those out too. All right. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back and close out the show. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back to close out the show. Just give a few final thoughts. I think I kind of already gave all my final thoughts. So like at the end there, I was talking about making sure you're partners. Do you have anything else you wanted to add around that, or do you get it all out?
No, I think just flexibility and presenting it from multiple angles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Giving all.
Yeah.
There's so many aspects to.
That's a good point.
To it that.
Maybe they're into video games. Get them to try it.
Right.
Maybe they're into reading. Get them to read Eisenhorn, for God's sake. I always use that as like the best entry.
Okay.
Because like, you don't think so?
No, it was a great one. No, it is.
The interesting thing about you reading that, I remember you'd be like, well,
Wait,
what is this? And I'd be like, keep reading. And they're like, oh, he says what it is. Like he'd always like say like,
half a chapter later, he explains it.
They use the Voxcaster. You're like, what the hell's a Voxcaster? And it's like, it's a, and you're like, oh, he said.
I think flexibility. Think about
it's a really good
different parts of
the hobby.
Like think about your spouse or friend or partner or whoever you're trying to get involved in. What is it that they're already interested in?
Yeah. And
I'm sure that within the world of 40K, there is that aspect somewhere.
That's true.
Because it's got so much stuff.
That's true.
Be patient.
Patient. That's a good one. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. All right. All right. So please go, if you're listening to us, leave us a review, whether it's iTunes, whether it's whatever you listen to us on. YouTube. It's on YouTube. Leave us reviews. We really appreciate. Leave comments. If you have any questions, let us know. And then we have a Facebook group. I have done a bunch of revision to the website. So I think I talked about last time, I've left Facebook effectively.
Yeah.
I have an account just to moderate the Facebook group, but it's like I have no friends on the account, not attached to it or anything. And, that's just my choice. I've decided to leave Facebook, Reddit, all the social media. It's just not, I've had enough of it.
Join us on Discord.
You can join us on Discord.
Come jump into the Hobby Progress Challenge. It's never too late.
That's true. That's a really
We have many months left.
I don't promote that enough. Oh, you know what? I have numbers. You
do have numbers we talked about.
Hobby Progress numbers. So Chelle broke this down for us. So if you don't know, Chelle has been doing the entire management of the Hobby Progress Challenge, which has been fantastic. And one of the things I'm doing when I go to Adepticon is talking to several vendors also about, so you said you'd support us on this.
We're coming up.
Give us the prizes.
When does it end? July?
I don't know. I think we're like halfway through.
I think it started in July.
Yeah. So we're coming up on it.
We're a little over half.
All right. Here are the numbers. First off, of the 215 people, I won't do every number, but of the 215 people that
are currently on there,
joined the Hobby Progress Challenge, 25 have 0 points.
Right. Some of those 25 have joined this month.
Oh, so it's possible.
Right.
They could pull it out this month. Okay. But look, even that, I mean, if you think about it, that means 190 people have at least 1 point.
Correct.
So 28 have 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we get into, 12 people have 6 points. But at the top, the maximum number of points that you can get is 12 so far. 51 out of those 215 people
have every one of them.
That's fantastic. It's better than I did.
You and I were both out.
you kept giving me a bunch of crap about it. You'd be like, you haven't done anything. I'm like, I don't need another. Or I'm working on it at my face. Yeah, but you're supposed to be
inspiring everyone.
Inspire Schmeier. You're all doing it fine just without me. 17 people have 10 points, 12 have 11, and 51 have 12 points, which is the max. So I mean, that's 63. That's 80 people, almost half.
Have been very involved month after month.
This is tremendous. And what that means, I mean, is when we get to the end of this, people are going to be walking around with, here's my fully painted army, you know, or I got this much stuff painted. That's the whole point of the thing, is just get stuff painted.
It's really fun reading people's comments about how excited they are, how much they have gotten done.
Yeah.
And how they're so close to finishing out this army, or they've just painted something that's been sitting there for 5 years and they've always wanted to do it. And this is a motivation
Kick them into
doing it. And I'm really having a lot of fun with it.
We are going to have a lot of prizes. So I'm not too worried about that. It's going to be great. I've gotten commitments from several vendors at this point. So speaking of vendors,
shake them up and get a few more.
Speaking of vendors, thing we didn't mention. What'd you get?
What'd I get?
Yeah. For your army. For
I I have a case.
Yeah, you got a KR multi-case.
KR multi backpack case.
Yeah, the backpack 2.
Backpack 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit all your stuff correctly.
It doesn't.
Because you put spikes on everything. You look like a porcupine.
I love my spikes.
I mean, and it's great. Like for local travel and stuff, that tableware case you have is fantastic.
Yeah.
But for getting on
a plane.
But we got it. Between the two of us, we got enough storage for both of our armies. So we're both taking 2,000 points. So if you want to see Chelle's Night Lords in person,
come by the Flex.
Yeah, come by the Flex. Okay. We've also got a Patreon. We absolutely, we've fallen a little behind on some of our stuff. Josh has been on vacation. I was on vacation. We are back. We're going to start producing a lot more content for that. In fact, we're recording something tomorrow for it. So if you're interested in seeing that, and also I have uploaded our entire back library to Patreon that is not available publicly currently, just because there's a limit on how much I can upload to our hosting account each month. And I max that limit out each time. But on the Patreon, there was no limit to how much I could upload. So I just uploaded like every episode that is not currently available.
So do those old episodes that are only available on Patreon
for the moment? Eventually they will
still have the commercials embedded in them?
Yes, they do. Yes.
So you can hear my original commercials with me and our kid.
Yeah.
The blue foam and the chain wrapped around chain.
That's right. I forgot about that one. From Secret Weapon Miniatures. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you get the wonderful commercials from Life After the Cover.
Yeah, the commercials are amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, we got that going on. Also, there are new dates for the War on the Shore for 2026 that are posted already.
Still in January.
Yep. But I don't remember the exact
amazing time to go to Hawaii, I will add.
Don't know the dates right off the top of my head. You can go to Tableware Charities and find the link there. I will provide a link in the show notes, but also we'll start running a commercial for it written by the Life After the Cover Save guys pretty soon. So
you know what else we have?
What?
A garage full of t-shirts.
We do have a garage.
And
if you want a t-shirt, you have an order.
Room in our suitcase.
Yes.
To bring them to
Adepticon.
And
avoid the shipping charge.
Going to be in that area. Avoid the shipping charge. And if you're overseas, get them, period.
And you have a friend coming. Yeah, we can get them to you there.
And on our form, when you go to order them.
Yep. There's a checkbox.
There's a choice to say, please bring it to Adepticon.
Yep. Please order shirts. I haven't made my money back yet. Hopefully eventually. Hopefully someday we'll make them run. We've made 3/4 of it.
Yeah, okay.
We're doing okay. And worst comes to worst, we got some shirts for rags for washing our cars or something. Forever and ever. I got totes and totes out there. All right. So, again, Chelle, thank you so much for joining. I know this is outside your comfort zone, but man, this has been great. It's been great to talk to you about this. And so until next time, this is Carl.
And this is Chelle.
And we're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where in the grim darkness of the far future, there's also love. And
the Night Lords are packed in their case and ready to take a trip.
There you go. All right. We'll see you next time. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.